Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. I'm expecting a rather quiet night. I really didn't give much notice, but it's been a bit, a little over a week since the last stream, which was a lot of fun. We were going through the bylines, and I think that we will probably pick up where we left off, but we are going to be going over some other things as well. So just because I always do this, just let me know that you can hear me okay. Steve, if you're in there, I see a few people in there, but please say hello. If you're in the chat, please say hello. I'd also appreciate it if you like the video. That really helps us with the algorithm. Okay, cool. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. All right. Well, we're just going to jump into this. Hopefully, a few people will jump on. If you're listening in the background, helps us out if you say hello. Feel free to come into the chat. Everyone is welcome. The only thing that we ask is that you behave like a grown up and act respectfully. And yeah, so just real quick. I'm using my ugly bubble today, and I do that for privacy reasons, not because I'm afraid of people seeing who I am. It's just that I'm in the main area. I have a few places where I have computers, and in order for me to use a few different things, I like to work where I'm working. And what I hear, well, I'll just show you. Hey, I'm here. I just really don't feel like having people like look at me in my house. That's all. But I'm here. See, I'm on. All right. Let's go back to the bubble. All right. So I'm going to throw the timeline back on the screen. Yeah, there it goes. Okay. So before we pick up where we left off, a while back, a long while back, I had put out the timeline, and it was made public. It was made available for enthusiasts. Unfortunately, we had a drive breach, a security breach, and we had to not make it public. So anyhow, not a big deal, but I just want to play something that was available. Let's see if I can get it on the screen. And it's just really important. I think some weird shenanigans is going on, and I'm just going to play this for you. This project is not funded by an outside source, nor is it monetized. It is for fair use for educational purposes only. This timeline chronicles the Son of Sam case, and it incorporates available data from the birth of David Berkowitz through current events. All sources are respectfully noted on the reference slide and, where appropriate, directly on the mention, the bullet, or the link. So I respectfully ask that if you use the CRTC SOS timeline, you mention the channel, and please do not alter the artwork. And let's all remember, it's not just a true crime story. To the victims and the survivors, it's personal. All right, so give me a moment. There's something that I want to read. There it is. Okay. If you identify a missing source or need to claim credit for information presented, please email cracklingrosietruecrime@gmail.com. I source all of my work. And if there's something that is not sourced properly, I'd like to, in a professional way, I'd like to be notified of it. And if I find that I used something and didn't source it properly, I would like to get that rectified. But anyway, right now, like I said, this is offline. Once I finish my series on my timeline, it will eventually be made public again. But while I'm still working with it, I don't need to be dealing with security breaches. So, all right. So that's that. Let's get out of that and come back to the main page. Hey, Salty. I know you have a busy schedule, dear. I'm not expecting any kind of shenanigans in the chat. So, please enjoy the show if you're available. All right. Let's clear some stuff off of the screen. I have all kinds of fun stuff. We're going to take that off. And I'm going to leave the chat on for now. Y'all can all see it. All right. Let's see. Where do we want to go? Before we jump into where we were last time, which was in Maury's bylines, just want to show you a couple other cool things from the timeline. All right. I think you can see that okay. And I'd like to give a shout out to artist Dan Bailey, who made this artwork specifically for the channel. Hey, if you get a chance to see this, Dan, I just want to give you another shout out and a big thank you. His work is unbelievable. Okay. Thank you, Dan. Just perusing through on my way to Maury land. Hey, if you see anything on screen, if anybody has any questions or comments, please throw it in. Yeah, while we're here, I just thought I'd mention, I hear a lot of people talking about the alleged unidentified Hispanic female. If you decide to believe Berkowitz on this occasion, he denied that there was another unidentified Hispanic woman coming out of the store. I think that appeared in Klausner's book. He denied that. And he never mentioned it on Killer Tape, though he did mention the foreman. So just a note there. All right, these are all the crime spree slides. We're not doing that tonight. Yeah, Steve, great artwork, Dan. His artwork is unbelievable, and just for him to provide the channel with a gift like that was so thoughtful. I'm so appreciative. Okay. Oh, I know what I wanted to go through. If you saw my post today, back in 78, Berkowitz was moved to Attica. So I think maybe we'll take a look at this first. I know it has nothing to do with Maury, but that's okay. This is Friday Night Live. I'm thinking that I'm probably going to come on Sunday, be a little bit more organized with the second half of the bylines, but we'll get through what we can today. Let's see. Let's go through Berkowitz's homes or places of incarceration. So What a lot of people may or may not know, I don't know, I'm going to guess, I'm just going to say don't know, was that from the time of Berkowitz's arrest all the way to June of 78, he was in Kings County. That's a really long time to be at that facility. But we're just going to go through a little timeline of the prisons. So on June 13th, 1978, Berkowitz was brought to Sing Sing Correctional Facility. He was brought there for processing. Then he was immediately transported. It was the same day to Clinton Correctional Facility. So here's Sing Sing. Same day, June 13th, later that day, Clinton Correctional Facility, Dannemora, New York. And there's Clinton. So in under a month, July 7th, 78, he was transferred to New York Psychiatric Unit at Marcy, which is near Utica. And let's see, June 6, 78, Berkowitz moved. A judge has declared David Berkowitz mentally ill and ordered him transferred from a state prison near here to the Central New York Psychiatric Center in Marcy near Utica. Clinton County Surrogate Judge Irving Goldman signed the transfer order in court today and said Berkowitz, known as the son of Sam Killer, could be moved as early as later today or Friday. That was on the 6th, remember, but they moved him the very next day. Berkowitz was brought here this morning under heavy guard from the Clinton Correctional Facility in nearby Dannemora. Berkowitz was quiet during the court session, according to Goldman, who said the only time the convicted slayer spoke was when he was asked if he wanted a hearing. I decline a hearing, Berkowitz was quoted by Goldman as saying. Berkowitz was sent to the Dannemora prison after pleading guilty to second-degree murder charges in 6 slayings spanning a 1-year period. And then on the 7th, AP reported that he was brought to Marcy. Yeah, Steve. Did that go out? Yeah, that picture of Foreman, I think that's been going around the tubes for a while. I think Paul Hart might have found that. Yeah, credit. Okay. On November 13th, 1978, he's transferred to Attica Prison, Wyoming County, New York. 1978, today's that anniversary. I'm not going to read all these. They're available on the timeline. If you want to go deeper into them at some point, we can. Just going through the timeline. All right, so he was at Marcy. Oh, well, he was in Attica, again, November 13th, 78. And then July 2nd, 1981, he was transferred. Let me try to get these so you can see them well. To Clinton Correctional Facility, Dannemora, New York. So he initially, after Sing Sing processing, went to Clinton. Then they returned him to Clinton after the Marcy stay and the Attica stay. December 1987, he transferred to Sullivan Correctional Facility in Fallsburg, New York. He was there for a long time. He did really well in Sullivan. And then April 12th, 2016, he was transferred to Shawangunk, where he remains today. And recently I saw that he was moved, but within the same prison. So, yeah. He was always in general population. Here, let me put that on screen so people could see. Not initially. Initially, he was under heavy guard, although we know everybody got in to see him at Kings County. He was under heavy guard, but, everyone could go see him anyway, and he had girlfriends writing to him and all kinds of stuff. But he was under heavy guard, especially after he got his throat slit, okay? So I would say initially, yes, but once he settled into prison life, he's part of General Pop and has been for a really long time, Steve. All right, so I'm going to get out of that. And while I'm thinking about it, let me take out that funky design in the background. Okay. Well, it's not going away, so we're just gonna continue on. All right. So yeah, Midiger. Yeah, yeah. Steve, do you know a lot about Midiger? Crazy. A lot of people. Midiger was in with that guard. Let me go to yeah, give me a moment. Let's scan through here. Sorry guys, I got like 3 screens open. Let's go to the Maury slide, since that's what. Yes, Sam sleeps. That's exactly right, Steve. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that we were somewhere dispersed in the reporter dispatch link last time. So let's go here. I'm going to share this tab instead. We listened to the intro of that. But in the event you missed my last stream, you know what? I am going to play that again. It's only like a minute, so let's be patient here. In 1979, journalist Maury published a series of investigative articles for Gannett newspapers in Westchester, challenging the official finding of a lone gunman in the Son of Sam case. This led to the reopening of the case in 1979 by John Santucci, the Queens District Attorney. Let's chronicle Maury's early investigation using these articles from the Reporter Dispatch. Before we begin, let's consider a few things. The lawsuits which were going on. The Midiger case. Remember that on October 26, 1978, Maury Terry accompanied Felix Gilroy to the deposition at Marcy. Maury suspected John Carr's involvement shortly after the arrest, but the Westchester Rockland newspapers were not willing to take on the liability of implicating the Carrs in the early stages of Maury's investigation, specifically in 77 and 78. These archives are in chronological order and will flow you through the early investigation of Maury Terry. All right, so we're back on the main Maury slide. Yeah, Salty. We went through some of the bylines. We were kind of putting in chronological order the different bylines so that people could get a sense of when and where certain characters started to come into the scene. I'm pretty sure that we made it. All right, we made it past Bartley. We didn't go through all of the stuff last time, but we did summarize. And I think we made it to about here. So again, though Terry and Midiger have been collaborating for some time already, which they were, they team up for a series of SOS articles for Gannett Westchester papers. And I think this is where we left off. This is where he really got the go-ahead to start naming people. Initially, Maury did not have the green light on that, but he, who better than the Moskowitz Violante to really start, bringing up the suspicious events, because there were so many people at that scene and so many quote unquote witnesses. So if you were going to pick a scene to really try and break down, this would be the one. But okay, we're not going to read that. We're coming here to October 12th, 1979, new probe into possible involvement of John Carr. So we're trying to search for that link between Berkowitz and Carr, okay? I teased you a little bit with the Minot stuff last time, and we talked about maybe going through it today, but we are not. I want to just focus on that stuff probably Sunday. But where's the Santucci? Is that it? Yes. Okay. So I think this is the real. We're going to listen to this, and if you have questions, I may stop with commentary, but if you have questions or comments, please put them in the chat. I'm going to fast forward a little bit through this. Well, online was excerpts from the Reporter Dispatch, October 12, 1979. The New York City Police Department has quietly reopened its investigation into the Son of Sam case. The new investigation began 2 years after David Berkowitz said, hey guys, just so you know, I was going to read this to you, and then I'm like, well, I got this on video already. So anyway, that's why I'm playing the video. So instead of me trying to read here with my glasses all crazy, let's listen to this as a refresher or a review, or maybe it's new for you. He was a killer who worked alone, and only weeks after the Gannett Westchester newspapers demonstrated the probability he did not. New York police reopened the investigation in a reversal of the department's public posture that Berkowitz acted alone, because they now believe he may have had at least one accomplice. While the new probe, known only to a few ranking members of the department, has been conducted under a blanket of tight security, its existence has been confirmed by authorities involved in the investigation in North Dakota. The Brooklyn District Attorneys publicly dismissed the Gannett story, but the New York City Police Department privately reopened the Son of Sam murder case. On Wednesday, October 17, 1979, a spokesman for Queens DA John Santucci reported that investigators from the Queens District Attorney's Office have entered the newly revived probe of the Son of Sam case. As reported by Gannett Westchester newspapers on October 18, 1979. The headline read, Queens DA joins new Sam probe. Santucci stepped into the case to expand the previously secret, limited investigation that begun by the New York City Police Department in early August, as Gannett Westchester newspapers reported last week. New York City police sources have confirmed the case was reopened, quote unquote, to a considerable degree because of new information uncovered by Gannett Westchester newspapers. Santucci's entry into the case will add considerable manpower to the police probe, which had purposely been conducted under a veil of secrecy and was initially known only to a handful of members of the department. Now we jump ahead to September 1981, where Queens District Attorney John Santucci breaks his silence and offers up an interview with journalist Maury. I was muted. So this is only a portion of it that was publicized, but it's pretty cool because here's a little interview with Santucci. All right, I'm muting myself again. Following are some of the highlights of the interview. Question: except for you, the rest of New York City's law enforcement establishment looked the other way when evidence of a conspiracy began appearing. Why did you decide to pursue this case? Answer: when David Berkowitz was arrested, I was at Police Plaza, New York City Police Headquarters, and I was involved in the taking of his statements and thereafter in the court negotiations. Throughout, I indicated I had some reservations in the matter. Not in regard to the guilt or innocence of David Berkowitz. I was absolutely convinced that he was guilty of the crimes charged. My question was from the outset and remains today whether or not Berkowitz acted alone. Question: the other district attorneys and the police were hoping that Berkowitz would plead guilty so that a trial would be avoided. But again, you alone wanted to see a trial. Why? Answer: there was a question as to Berkowitz's sanity at the outset, and the very early reports from the psychiatrists were that he was not capable of standing trial. I opposed those. I went into court personally and said the findings were totally out of focus. I insisted on new reports, and thereafter the examinations provided a different result. I did want to see a trial because I wanted to determine whether some of these conspiracy questions in my mind, and certainly I think in the minds of others, could not be resolved, and I think they should be resolved. Question: what is the current status of your investigation? Answer: I have an assistant district attorney assigned to the case. I have a research man looking into the background of the case and all the facts that surrounded these occurrences. I have 2 detectives who are at their disposal to see what they can compile for us. Question: after nearly 2 years now of your new investigation, do you personally believe David Berkowitz was not alone in the Son of Sam murders? Answer: I believe that David Berkowitz did not act alone, that in fact others did cooperate, aid, and abet him in the commission of these crimes. In fact, it has crossed my mind that this .44 caliber pistol, which was the weapon used in the shootings we witnessed, was passed around among a number of people. Question: regarding some specific crime scene evidence, there are composite sketches that look nothing like Berkowitz, and there are strong reports of 2 people and 2 cars at some of the scenes. Are these among the reasons you believe he wasn't alone? And I'm gonna pause there. One thing that always bothered me, and is this concept of people passing around the 44. That didn't make any sense to me. I mean, even if it's like a ghetto gang, I mean, y'all don't have your own gat. They're all passing around one gun. I mean, that never made sense to me. And I don't know. I always found that ridiculous. Um, if other people had the same gun or whatever, but the fact that there was like 144 and they were passing it around between it's just ridiculous. Okay, let me keep going. Answer: what you're pointing out is exactly what caused the concern in my mind. We've had a number of murders in recent years of some very prominent people, and following the killings, there were theories advanced that the individual who committed the crime was not acting alone. I'm talking about John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and others. The questions were left unanswered. In this case, the sketches of the individuals, the composites, were at wide divergence from Berkowitz. That was one problem. Allegations that there were more than one vehicle involved, and the time frame the killer getting from one place to another gave us serious questions. I think that no matter how these issues are resolved, they should be resolved. I think it's in the public interest that we know. If there are people out there who were involved with Berkowitz, they may be doing the same thing today. And I think part of my function is to prevent these things from happening. And this is the way I have to do it. And so I've been involved in looking into this case and having people spend time on it. Question: not to compromise any progress you have made, but there have been some possible suspects identified. Do you have any particular people in mind? Answer: I have ideas to who would be most valuable to me to talk to. I have independent suspicions. Whether I'll be successful in talking to them or accumulating any further evidence, I don't know at this point. There are also people I would like to talk to who are no longer available to me. Where each of them is at the present time, I don't know. I also have some people in mind whose whereabouts I know, but who wouldn't be helpful to me. Question: has the unusual number of deaths involving people now known to have been connected to Berkowitz in some way hindered your probe? Answer: we've looked into some of these incidents you've talked about, and yes, there are unusual number of people who are no longer living. The probe certainly would have been easier if all of the principals or all the people involved peripherally or directly were still alive, but unfortunately, many are not. Question: Berkowitz has named the late John Carr as one of his accomplices. Would you care to comment on Carr's role in the case? Answer: I don't think it would be appropriate to comment because John Carr is dead, and I think any comment by me would serve no purpose. Question: I know the Stacy Moskowitz murder in Brooklyn is not in your jurisdiction, but as an observer, do you think that in light of all the evidence that has been uncovered since Berkowitz's arrest, he actually pulled the trigger that night? Answer: I would not even speculate on something that happened outside of my jurisdiction. Question: well, put another way, based on the evidence, does there appear to be one scene in particular where it is apparent that Berkowitz was not alone? Answer: in the context of the preceding question, I don't dare answer this question. Question: in our investigation, we found that contrary to some myths circulating after Berkowitz's arrest, he was not the lunatic and the loner he was made out to be by others. Have you arrived at the same conclusion? Answer: it is my understanding, and the evidence I have available to me indicates that he was perfectly sane, knew exactly what he was doing, and that he did have a circle of friends he was involved with. Question: at this point in time, do you feel you have a reasonable chance of solving this case? Answer: I think an answer may be found as to whether or not other people did act in concert with Berkowitz. Whether or not it would lead to indictments, whether or not it would be hard evidence is very debatable. But my principal goal is to find out, to settle the issue, to know whether or not others were involved, whether or not, in fact, the gun was passed around, whether or not Berkowitz was aided and abetted by others. Should I be able to certify any one of those incidents, any one of those probabilities, then of course I would try to get enough evidence to prosecute. But that's a little more difficult than just settling the question. Thank you for listening. All right. So, Yeah. Elections, politics. But I'm going to tell you, and there's probably some truth to that. A lot of people think that Santucci was just trying to warm up with his public. But I'm going to be honest with you. It's my position that Santucci thought that there were others involved. To what degree, based on what I've seen, I don't know, but I believe that he believed it. I don't think he was just doing it for numbers in the polls. I really believe that he believed that others were involved. All right, so let's move on here. Okay. So again, they got the green light and John Carr enters the scene. But Maury suspected John from the jump from the letters, but now he's able to report on it. So I am going to cover a little bit of this. It's not very long. I'll just cover what's highlighted. So October 1679, Wheaties Carr feared for his life. John Carr, who authorities in New York and North Dakota now think may have possibly been involved in the 44 caliber killings that left 6 dead and 7 wounded in 76 and 77, made the statement about the electric chair just days before his death in Minot, North Dakota in February 1978, after abruptly returning there from Yonkers, North Dakota police say. So I don't know where they got that information, but that's pretty interesting. Okay. And here was the official announcement, October 18th. Queen's DA joins the new SAM probe. I definitely don't think we need to go too detailed into this since we just listened to that reel, but I will give you the highlights. So Santucci stepped into the case, the spokesman said, to expand the previously secret limited investigation that was begun by the NYPD in early August, as Gannett Westchester newspapers reported last week. Police began probing the Son of Sam killings anew because they no longer are certain David Berkowitz acted alone in the murder spree that left 6 dead and 7 wounded, 76 to 77. The new investigation was launched 2 years after Berkowitz said he was the killer who acted alone, and only 2 weeks after the Gannett Westchester newspapers demonstrated the probability that he did not. But like I said, we just listened to that. So I'm not going to go a whole lot into that. What's up, Stu? Good to see you. All right, this is interesting. I'm going to read a little bit from the part 2 of that, and that'll intro Joe Basteri. Police in New York, aware of numerous occult references in the Son of Sam letters, are investigating the possibility that the Son of Sam killings were occult motivated and may have involved a cult of Satanists. Joseph Basteri, a 30-year veteran of the New York City Police Department and a first-grade detective for 21 years until his retirement late in 77, so after Berkowitz was arrested, he retired, was an original handpicked member of the police department's Son of Sam task force. The original investigation was in constant turmoil. There was very little direction. We never had briefings to let us know what the other guys were doing, he said. And I and others on the task force always thought it was conceivable that there was more than one man. The case was closed too quickly after Berkowitz's arrest. And then it goes into a statement by Nasa Moskowitz. So my little note here, I just put Joseph Basteri's quoted. I and others on the task force thought it was conceivable that there were more, that there was more than one man. And Basteri, and this is just my opinion, was one of the NYPD contacts where Maury probably got a lot of his info. We'll learn a little bit more about Basteri when we get to the cast of characters. Okay. On October 24th, 1979, was satanic cult linked to Berkowitz's killing. Okay. So give me 1 second. I'm actually going to pop on my other monitor because this is so small on my main screen. I'm only going to read the highlights, but I can't even, in this article, I can't even do that. So here we go. Boom. And yeah, what's up, Stu? What time is it by you? My goodness. You need to get some sleep, boy. All right. Give me a minute. Those of you know I'm very technically challenged. Oh, man, we skipped right over the Volkswagen. Oh, no, we didn't. We didn't even get up to that. Oh, this section, we're definitely coming back to this on Sunday and doing this in a little bit more, in a better order. Okay, here we go. I got it. Was satanic cult linked to Berkowitz killings? Okay. October 24. Now, this is part of the package where he's working with Mittiger. A satanic cult that operated in North Yonkers was apparently linked to David Berkowitz and the Son of Sam killings. Sources have told Gannett Westchester newspapers that cult members may have aided Berkowitz, the self-confessed Son of Sam killer, in the murder spree that left 6 dead and 7 wounded in 76 and 77. The apparent link between Berkowitz and the devil worshippers is primary focus of a newly reopened probe by the Queens District Attorney's Office into the Son of Sam killings. The probe was undertaken after these newspapers, meaning the Gannett papers and Maury's research, in a series of recent investigative reports demonstrated the probability that Berkowitz did not act alone. And he said he did in the Son of Sam killings. In addition to Berkowitz, the late John Carr, the real-life son of Sam Carr and Berkowitz's neighbor, was also apparently linked to the Yonkers cult. So we don't have to get too deep into that. I'm just stating the timeline that at or about that time is when they started making it public that they thought that there could be a cult involved. And then I'm just going to read this other little passage because this brings in Hamilton, which we discussed on the last video. We didn't go deep at all into him, but he was the handwriting analyst. Okay. Handwriting expert Charles Hamilton states, I will say without any qualification whatsoever that David Berkowitz did not write that letter. Whoever wrote that letter to Breslin is possessed of a high degree of urbanity and wit, is well educated, and is able to make words flow together beautifully. Berkowitz cannot do that, and his limited education shows in everything he writes, Hamilton says. The police were duped into believing Berkowitz wrote it and then convinced themselves he did it because they wanted to believe he did, but he didn't, Hamilton insists. So, and then for those who were not here or who, those who weren't here, this is George Hamilton. Here's a little fun tidbit. Jackson Citizen Patriot, September 28, 1980. Here's an excerpt. Last year, so many inmates leaked tidbits about Berkowitz that he obtained a court order prohibiting autograph expert Charles Hamilton from peddling autographs, fingerprints, and bits of information. And yeah, he was buying all kinds of stuff. Let me see if I have it on this link. If I do, I'll go through it. But here's some of his more reputable stuff. He was an author, and those are some of his books. I'm not going to read them because whatever. Here, it gets really interesting or more entertaining than anything. Okay. So, Berkowitz, Hamilton purchased a letter from some crazy lady named Rosina, who was writing Berkowitz when he went into Kings County. So I'm just going to give you a little bit from the information on it, and then I'm going to read you Berkowitz's response. So, September 22nd, 77, son of Sam has a pen pal. A pen pal friendship apparently has developed between the alleged son of Sam killer and a woman who has offered him a place to stay when he gets out of the hospital. Rosina Belpidio, 40, said late yesterday she thinks David Berkowitz is handsome and very close to me. Belpedio nevertheless has sold for $100 a letter Berkowitz wrote her. I needed the money. I was broke. I hope Sam forgives me, she says. Berkowitz replied to two notes Belpedio sent him at Kings County Hospital, where he is undergoing psychiatric tests. He is accused of murdering, I'm not going to go into that. Okay, and what I'm going to do is, this gives you some of what he says, and this is the letter, but I'm going to play this for you, and you can hear. It's only like the 30 seconds. It's going to give you what Berkowitz said. So listen up. Berkowitz responds to Rosina.
Rosina, I sense that you're very much like me, a lonely person. I just hope this letter happens to cheer you up. I'm going to pray for you, Rosina, that you find a lot of friends in this world and that you find someone to love who can be with you and share his life with you. Goodbye, Rosina, and thank you for caring. Take care. Yours truly, David B. Sam.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and clear up some of these tabs. So Rosina got a Dear John letter from David Berkowitz. Anyway, I just thought that was amusing enough to share. Let's move on. Carrying on. Rosina Belpidio. She thought he was handsome, and she's going to let him move in. And this was in the beginning when he was in Kings County. I'll tell you, some people are so crazy. All right, we went through Santucci. We talked a little bit about Steri. Remember, this is an overview. This is giving you the timeline, and then we are going to go into each person individually. So Berkowitz was not happy with this, and he said he wasn't going to help the police. So Santucci was trying to get in to see him, and Berkowitz refused. I'll give you the highlights. October 26, 79. Berkowitz won't aid in new Sam probe. Queens District Attorney John Santucci contacted the warden at Attica State Prison, where Berkowitz is serving his sentence, earlier this week, and was told that Berkowitz would not consent to an interrogation by Santucci's detectives. And this says what? My little note here says Berkowitz won't aid an investigation, but, okay, here, just to show you Berkowitz. Berkowitz won't aid in investigation, but has open communication via letters sent to North Dakota police. So, you know. Okay, let me grab this and see if there's something here that, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead. Yeah, oh, definitely. Okay. So I'm going to read the highlights for you on this. November 5th, 79, Berkowitz to police, forget the new probe. In a letter to police in North Dakota, Berkowitz, the self-confessed son of Sam killer, wrote, all this is just to let you know what you are up against. Forget it. It is a losing battle. Are you making any progress in the investigation? He added, I doubt if you are. I doubt if you can. The all this to which Berkowitz referred was a pamphlet and group of newspaper clippings included with the letter describing the drinking of blood at black masses and accounts of animal mutilations by members of satanic cults. Gardner is assigned to investigate the 1978 shooting death of John Carr, the son of Sam Carr of Yonkers. Berkowitz's neighbor and the so-called Master Berkowitz said ordered him to kill. Berkowitz apparently selected Gardner to write to because the deputy lieutenant has been frequently quoted in newspaper accounts of the new Son of Sam probe. Okay, let's go to the other highlights section. One prominent aspect of the new probe is the possibility that Berkowitz may have been aided in the killings by members of satanic cult that operated near Berkowitz's home in the Northwest Yonkers during the time of the Son of Sam. Sources have told Gannett Westchester papers that members of the devil worshiping cult, okay, we covered that before. To date, Berkowitz has refused to cooperate with the Queens District Attorney's new Son of Sam probe, balking at a bid last month by investigators from Santucci's office to question him about possible accomplices. And then Berkowitz appears to be giving us clues and verifying our belief that Satanism is behind the crimes, Deputy Lieutenant Gardner said. So that's just a mentioning now of the North Dakota. Let's scan down. How long have we been going? All right, I'm probably just going to go for a few more minutes. I'll cover the next byline and give you a little bit of information on that. And then I just had a couple of things that I wanted to show before I sign off today. And then I promise you I'm going to have this better organized on. I wanted you to have some of these headlines because on Sunday, I want to go through the actual individuals. So I want to get these bylines out of the way. I know it gets a little bit stale, so I appreciate you sticking with me on this. Okay, so November 29, 79, John Carr, son of Sam figure is linked to the cult. So I'm guessing that I have all this highlighted. Oh, okay, so this is interesting. So not only is Maury and Mittiger on this, but they also are giving credit to Jack Graham, who is a reporter in Minot, in North Dakota. So the late John Carr, a central figure in the reopened probe of the Son of Sam murders, belonged to a violent underground Yonkers cult that worshiped the devil and took part in satanic rituals in North Dakota, a former close friend of Carr's said. The friend, Philip Falcon, who knew Carr when Carr was stationed in North Dakota during a stint in the Air Force, told of Carr's involvement with Satanism in both Yonkers and North Dakota during a recent 2-hour interview with these newspapers. So that's where they're getting that from Phil Falcon. And I'm sure most of you, if you're listening to this, have probably read the Falcon reports. We're not going to read through them, but I will summarize them when we come up to Falcon. All right, just a few more highlights here, and then we're going to probably shut it down. Falcon's statements linking Carr to what he said was a very violent Yonkers cult could provide new support to investigators' theories that the Son of Sam killings may have been occult motivated. As part of the new investigation, authorities have interviewed friends of Carr in Minot. Falcon, thought to be a key in the case because of his friendship with Carr, was sought but never found by Minot police. These newspapers found Falcon on the West Coast, where he granted an interview. In that session, Falcon said Carr was very much involved in satanic occult activities in Minot and Yonkers. He said Carr mentioned having friends in New York who were really into the occult. They'd all get together in like a witch's coven, a witch's church, Falcon said. They were an underground group. Okay, so I think that's all we're going to cover on that. Let me just see what's on new Berkowitz Carr link found. So we're just going to finish up this page, and then we'll see where we are with the bylines. What did I highlight here? Oh, okay, yeah. Just going to mention Hamilton again. Berkowitz was incapable of it, said Hamilton. They're talking about the letter, of course. Said Hamilton, who had studied numerous samples of Berkowitz's known writing style. John Carr, however, was known as a good writer, and his friends tell us he was always making up bizarre poetry and things like that, Gardner said. So you've got a big twist of people going on. Let's see. Okay, we're gonna go one more because I said I was gonna go 1 hour, and we have a few minutes here. So let's move down to February 1980. And my note to myself here on the timeline is the death of John Carr comes into play in a possible case of the body switchers. So let's check out what this article has to say. February 19th, 1980, fate of suspected accomplice of Son of Sam still unknown. And I'm just going to read you the highlighted portions. And again, if you weren't on the stream last time, when I'm done covering all these bylines, they're going to be made available to you if you want them. Okay. Investigators are not 100% certain that the body found in Minot 2 years ago was actually Carr's. The body was never officially identified by North Dakota police or any family member, and a legally unknown person was buried in Carr's grave in a Westchester cemetery. New information being sifted by investigators about the shooting conflicts with the original determination of apparent suicide as the cause of death. Numerous inconsistencies have increased the likelihood that Carr, if in fact he was the victim, was murdered. Sources close to the new Son of Sam investigation have confirmed that the body thought to be Carr's was interred without North Dakota authorities having established that it was indeed Carr's. Visual identification of the body was impossible because the rifle blast totally disfigured the face of the victim, they say. In addition, authorities in Minot claim the body was fingerprinted and identified. However, 4 sets of fingerprints disappeared or were misplaced before they can be compared with military and FBI file copies of fingerprints known to have been John Carr's, sources say. Sources. Copies of the prints reportedly taken from the body were earmarked for the FBI, Air Force, Minot Police Department, and Ward County Sheriff's Department. Sheriff's investigator Glenn Geetson said he personally took the prints from the corpse, but none of the agencies involved have any record of receiving the prints for comparison and identification. We don't know who was killed that night, one source close to the new Son of Sam probe said. It's possible that Carr killed someone else, pulled a body switch, and somehow got those prints back, if they were in fact ever taken. So they're going on that wild goose chase, and I just thought I would kind of sum that up there. All right, so it's teaser time. The height was off too, I think. That was, I mean, you see where these bylines go though? I mean, they kind of show where all of the Maury stories come in. See, because I mean, I loved the story of the ultimate evil, but I'm going to be honest with you. I've read the book twice. I use it as a guide when I have to go back and search and, when I'm doing research. Plus I had to get the audio because I do a lot where I can't sit and read. I don't travel on the train or anything like that anymore. So, it's a little easier for me to listen to audio. And I'll tell you, there's just so much detail that this is the reason why I even did this. I went through all of this because I just wanted to give it the due diligence that I did all the police reports and the letters and everything that was in the People's versus Berkowitz site. And it's so confusing. And if it's confusing to me, and I'm very familiar with this case, all of the characters, I can't even imagine how confusing it is for a newbie. So anyhow, whatever. I'm just babbling now. So I'm just going to give you a little look-see at this. This is March 1980. Now they're starting to talk about who ran from the Son of Sam attack. And again, I think I'm around 50 times. I mean, truly, here, let me put that up for everybody. I mean, I'm talking from front to back. back. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've referred to it. I've definitely been in and out of that thing, dozens, if not hundreds of times for reference. But I mean, reading front to back, and the audio I've listened to a couple times because, like I said, it's more accessible to me. And for those of you that like audio, then I recommend it because it's just you get more detail and you could rewind it quickly, that kind of thing. But whatever. Um, yeah. So even okay, so you might consider yourself like an expert, Steve, and I'm sure that even you get confused with all these cats. Um, all right. So again, earlier I mentioned about the Moskowitz scene. There's so much commotion going on there that if there was going to be a scene that you were going to really dive into and investigate, I would say, um, you know, Moskowitz was the one. Moskowitz Violante was the one. But anyway, there was some question about the yellow VW, and I know this has been covered ad nauseum by others, and so I'm not going to be doing a big investigation on it. But I'm just going to give you a little tease into the slide for it. Oh yeah. Got it in 87. Yeah, Steve, I didn't read The Ultimate Evil when it came out. I actually read The Ultimate Evil after I saw Descent into Darkness. After I saw it, I read The Ultimate Evil. But anyway, I'm just going to scooch through this. So here you'll see there's going to be excerpts from The Ultimate Evil that mention the yellow VW. We've highlighted the police reports and made notes. I'm hoping to do this show with somebody. Again, more notes, more police reports. This is the indexes, the index rather, and the actual police reports. We go into Alan Masters. And I'm just giving you a look-see. At the slide, but we'll go through it in greater detail on, as we pick up with the Maury slide. So let me go back to the main. All right, this is the journal tab. I'm going to shut the masters down. Let me see. Yep, you are all there. Perfect. Oh, please. Steve, I'm not doing it. Sorry. The God. No, see, that's just it. And thank you, because I know you're being classy and you don't want to say fucker in my chat. So thank you for keeping it classy. See, that's why I'd like it where there's no shenanigans. So, it's probably worth a shorty of me just going through and explaining this just, without the shenanigans. Um, but we're not doing that now. So moving on, I'm going to go back to the main Maury slide. Share this tab instead. I'm going to shut down. I'm done with the bylines for tonight because, quite frankly, I'm not in the mood to read any more bylines. And I'm sure y'all are probably bored of listening to bylines. But let's see. What do we got going down here? Since you brought him up, let's see if I could scan down a little bit here. Okay. So since Mittiger was brought up, I'm just going to, that's Jim Mittiger, and I'm just going to show you his link. Yes, he's known as the Sam Sleeps guy. So, okay. In 1973, Midiger worked for the New York City Police Department before becoming a journalist. In 79, while working as a freelance writer for the New York Post, Midiger was acquitted on charges that he had bribed a correction officer to obtain photographs and information about murderer David Berkowitz. I'll give you a little bit on this. Okay. Indict ex-cop as peddler of Son of Sam pictures. A former city cop who is now a freelance writer has been indicted in connection with the hospital ward photos taken at Son of Sam suspect David Berkowitz. It was learned yesterday. James Midiger, 31, of Staten Island, and an unidentified accomplice allegedly netted $20,000 when the New York Post bought and then published 3 of the photos. The News rejected an offer to buy the pictures, so they're referring to the Daily News themselves. 2 of the photos showed Berkowitz sleeping in he supposedly closely guarded his sixth floor psychiatric ward in Kings County Hospital. So this is what I was laughing at before. He was so guarded that all this crap was going on. But we'll go through this. Let's say the agents identified Midiger's alleged accomplice as an employee of the corrections department. So here we have his name, Herbert Clark, 31. He was the accomplice. He was the corrections officer, and Midiger was getting information from him. And here's the thing, without me going through all this, because like I said, I'm done with bylines. we can go through this a little bit more deeply. But the Post threw him under the bus too, because he was an independent consultant, for the Post. So they made it like they knew nothing about this, and they absolutely knew. It's even been said that they're the ones that bought like this tiny little, remember those Inspector Gadget type cameras, so that it could get snuck into the prison. So yeah. And then what I'm still curious about tapes that were played in Josh Zeman's film, or was it his? No, it wasn't the podcast. It was the film, the documentary, where Midiger was talking to David Berkowitz, and and he evidently got some tapes from that, because it's my understanding that that Midiger got everything through Clark. But maybe Clark let him in. I mean, a lot was going on. He was sending letters from Kings County. All kinds of things were going on. So anyway, and that's where the Gilroy deposition comes in. Felix Gilroy was representing Midiger in the case, which eventually got squashed. But he went up to Depo Berkowitz for the sake of this case. And Maury Terry joined him as an administrative clerk, in an administrative clerk capacity. And so he was present for the deposition, which I'm not going to get into today. And this is just some backup on the Ultimate Evil that talks a little bit about the references of Midiger. But here, let me just get this. Guard got $5,800 to spy on Berkowitz. So that's Clark, Herbert Clark. The disclosure by Special State Prosecutor John Keenan came yesterday with the filing of 2 indictments charging that James Midiger, 31, a former city cop, paid $5,800 bribe to the guard to obtain the materials. So everybody's throwing everybody under the bus right now. But could you believe he got like 20 grand from the Post? I mean, that's a lot of money then. So yeah, I mean, did it ruin him? I'm still interested to know why he left the police force to go into journalism. I don't know. I know he stayed doing he stayed in the journalistic field. I think he went for one of those sad rags like the Inquirer or something like that. But he worked with Maury for quite some time. Let's see. Just going to look at these highlighted stuffs and then we're going to call it an evening. Named but not charged in the indictments. I already told you that. Herbert Clark, 31. Keenan said Clark took the Berkowitz photos and obtained from him information, including letters that later appeared in print. Keenan said, however, it had been necessary to offer Clark immunity from prosecution in order to obtain evidence against Mittiger. So he got a little slappy on the wrist because they needed him for the Mittiger case, which, again, he was fine. Mittiger was fined, and that was it. 2 of the photos published in December by the Post showed Berkowitz sleeping. We know the photos. The News, which had been offered the 3 photos for $25,000, rejected the offer. So Daily News rejected $25,000. Post paid $20,000. Bam, sale was made. All right. The identity of the suspect, they said, remains a mystery until November, when Mittiger reportedly tried to bribe a second correction officer, Frank Jost, who immediately blew the whistle on the operation. So he's the one who put the kibosh on that. All right. So I'm going to get out of this for now. But yeah, that's where Felix Gilroy comes in. And let me go back to the master, share this, take that off. I gave, I think it was like 2023. But if you go on my Facebook page, and actually it's linked to the top. It's been linked to the top. When I first read over the Gilroy deposition, I threw my 2 cents on there. I found it inconclusive. I found Berkowitz kind of playing with them and him really not wanting to answer questions. But again, I'm not reading that. We'll leave that for Neo. I think he's going to be covering it next. And he gives a good, when he's focused on analyzing information and data, he usually gives good feedback. So I'm not going to get into that. I definitely don't want to read that, but I will get more into the attorneys, because that's where the interest is. The papers themselves, like, whatever. You read it, you can make your own judgment. Like I said, my 2 cents was, it was inconclusive because it was Berkowitz being Berkowitz, and I think he was kind of playing them, going back and forth, giving them non-answers. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, yeah. Okay, here's Busteri. He's the one that I mentioned before that came up on the bylines, and we'll just do a quickie peek on him. Yeah, he was a 30-year veteran of the NYPD, first grade detective. Maury gave Gilroy some interesting questions. Well, he did, but I mean, what did you think of the answers? They were kind of, Berkowitz's answers were kind of like peanut butter jelly to me. But yeah. Here, let's I have a reel here. I'm not 100% sure what's on it, but we're going to hear it. Oh, okay. Busteri talks about this is from Unsolved Mysteries.
One of them or 2 looked like David Berkowitz.
Busteri on the
The other
sketches.
did not resemble him at all. It was completely different. I thought it was rather strange, although we know that these drawings are done by victims or witnesses who see the killer for a brief period of time.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
And then a day or 2 or several hours later, they have to go to a police department artist, and he has to put that on paper. That's a very difficult thing to do. So many times these sketches are not very accurate. So I thought perhaps maybe that's why we saw so many different versions of the Son of Sam on the composites.
Okay, so that's Basteri's take on the composites. Not reliable. Oh, this is something I found a little bit interesting. When I was looking, and this has nothing to do with Son of Sam, but when I was looking into the case, not case, when I was looking into Basteri, 1980, and this is an excerpt from the Standard Star. Basteri, who retired from the police department in 78 and later served as an investigator on the House Select Committee in investigating the Kennedy King assassinations, adds there were two-level promotions in the department. Careers were on the line. Nobody wanted to upset the wagon. So I found that pretty cool, that pretty interesting, rather, that JFK Task Force. Former investigators, Joseph J. Basteri. So he was on here. I found that pretty interesting. Of course, he was in Maury's acknowledgments, my gratitude extended to retired NYPD. Him and Basteri were compadres. And and there they are for Geraldo Rivera's episode 2 of Now It Can Be Told. Ms. D Channel, Nisa Moskowitz, Maury Terry, and Basteri. And there's his obit. He passed away October 25th, 2018. And I know that was such a ghetto quick run through. As we discuss these matters, and if we need to go into Basteri more deeply, we'll come back and we'll do that a little bit more appropriately, because this is the MT detective, Joseph Basteri. So there's some cats that I have links for, and then I have other links that that belong to the Maury Terry link, and then we have some that are part of the main timeline link. And this is oh, what happened? Let's see. Well, you know what? I lost that, and instead of bringing it back up, I'm gonna start signing off soon. So, yeah. But before we take off, you know, I enjoy researching these matters, and I have everything that I've done on this case and other cases, and specifically with this timeline. And let's just go here. Just go here for a moment. I'm just going to kind of take you through very quickly. I'm not going into anything, but all these are folders. Within these folders are dozens upon dozens of archives and materials, okay? Everything for the timeline is dated, okay? My computer, your computer, anybody who does real work has computer stamps on all their work, okay? All right, here's the thing. Stu, it's 3 a.m. UK time. Do you know where your children are? Dude, you got to go to bed. Do a show on coffee. I could. You like coffee, don't you? Big old 6'4" dude. What's this busy? Busy. I don't know. But anyhow, everything ever done by me is completely sourced, backed up, and time-stamped. So I'm just throwing that out there for no other reason is that I do all my own work, okay? And when I use other people's stuff, I credit it. So I'm just throwing it out there. Everything I do, these are all folders. So within these folders are more folders and files and pictures and articles and all kinds of shit. There's links, there's all kinds of stuff, and it's all time stamped and all dated. So Yeah. So, I played the little recording for you. I'm gonna get out of that now. Played the little recording from you in the beginning. If you feel like I'm jacking something from you, what I challenge people is to be a grown up. Cracklin Rosie, true crime at gmail.com. Just like I said, please let me know. I never want to take credit for someone else's work ever. I always want to give proper credit. So, like a grown up, you let me know where something seems questionable that you feel that you might not have gotten credit for, and we will make it right because that's how I do stuff. And yeah, here, we're going to finish right here. Man crush. Wait a second. Wait, before we sign off. Now I can't. Now we can't. Hang on one second. I don't know, dude. I don't know. Let's see what we got going on here. Give me un segundo. Oh, I can't get it. Anyway, I'll share something in group for you, Steve. Well, hey, light crowd tonight. I really didn't expect much because I didn't give anybody much time to prep. And I know Friday night is date night, so everybody is probably having a good old time. But yeah, I'm planning. I don't want to make any promises because, like I told you before, my schedule is not that great. But I was planning on finishing up that link on Sunday. I don't think that there's any reason to beat the bylines to death. So what I'm going to do is make a summary, and then I'd like to get into John Carr. I want to get into Michael Carr, and I want to get into jump back into the lawsuits because I really think that they're important. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, yeah, here. Yeah. Thanks for being my chat today, Steve. Yeah, hopefully. We'll see. I may surprise everyone and try a morning. Poor Stu. What's he doing up 3? Oh, it's Friday. Okay, it's all right for him to be up 3 o'clock on Friday. He is a young boy though, so he probably has like sports and stuff tomorrow. All right, guys, listen, I'm not going to ramble on anymore because I feel like I've rambled on enough. Yeah, I will definitely see you on the next one where we're going to really take it in bite-sized chunks like I like to do. This was kind of scatterbrained, and so was last Sunday's, where we're just going through and going through and going through. We're going to actually just take a piece and break it down. So it'll probably be much shorter live, and we will focus, answer questions, and provide all backup for like 1 or 2 topics. But anyway, all right, guys, I'm going to head out, and I hope you all have a good night. Thank you for joining me. I'm sorry that the people who were in the background didn't say hello. Whatever. Yeah, you have a good night too. All right. Peace.